After narrowly cheating death in Carnage Reigns, Miles Morales thinks that his life is finally getting back on track, but what will happen when he finds himself in the crosshairs of the Hobgoblin? Well, let's hop into the pages of Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 9 and find out together, shall we? So then, as we join the book, Miles is hanging out with his friends and taking in one of New York's famous food truck festivals, and can I just say, man, it is so nice to see Miles hanging out with people his own age and being a kid, and having fun and finding a nice work-life balance with being a superhero. It's something that is sorely lacking in other superhero books at the moment. Of course, it's not all happiness and sunshine. This is supposed to be a good outing for Miles, but unfortunately, his spider sense seems to be on the fritz. He's jumping at everything now. It's so bad, even his girlfriend Tiana is able to pick up that there's something wrong with him. Miles tries to play it all off, saying that he's been under a lot of stress recently with Carnage and the Rabble, and that it's probably just supercharged him. Tiana again reiterates everything she basically said in the first arc of this new Cody Ziegler series, that Miles shouldn't have to bottle all this stuff up, that she wants to be a sympathetic ear and someone that he can talk to instead of just pouring it all out in his journal. But we'll circle back to this in a minute. From there, we transition on over to a team of highly armed thugs robbing a building belonging to the Beyond Corporation. You'll remember that Beyond was making all sorts of trouble over in the main Amazing Spider-Man book, and it seems that they've bled over here to the Miles series. Now, what exactly are these goons after? Well, you'll never believe it, but they're after one of those machines that Beyond used to try and doctor the memories of Ben Reilly Spider-Man. In fact, if you were reading Amazing Spider-Man that came out this week, you'll know that they're using one of those helmets there too. It's a hot item. However, unfortunately for these faceless, nameless thugs, they're not the only ones who currently have their eyes set on a bunch of old Beyond tech. One by one, they all end up getting picked off by a returning Hobgoblin. Now, if you're like me, you're probably asking which Hobgoblin we're dealing with, because there's been several over the years, and judging by this guy's internal monologue, he certainly seems to be the original Roderick Kingsley. Mainly because he makes reference to the Hobgoblin's last battle in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man against Ned Leeds and Peter Parker. In fact, it gets a little interesting too, as the internal monologue seeks to imply that Kingsley only awoke his Hobgoblin persona to go do a job, but ever since that job was completed, the Hobgoblin hasn't gone away. And now he might very well be running around making plays for himself, and we know the Hobgoblin is a big fan of messing with people's minds and memories, so it only makes sense that he's after the same tech these guys are. Now back over with Miles and his friends, they've thoroughly conquered the food truck fair and are now feeling a major case of the itis. Tiana wants to grab some Pepto-Bismol from a nearby bodega and asks Miles to accompany her so they can talk some more. It's during their conversation we discover that Miles has really been only having these issues with his spider sense ever since his near brush with death at the hands of Carnage in the Carnage Reigns story. But even before that, though, he hasn't exactly been feeling like himself. He had his major meltdown in the first arc. He even lashed out at one of his teachers. Tiana begins to theorize that maybe, just maybe, none of this actually has anything to do with Miles' spider powers, and maybe this isn't a spider sense issue, maybe this is more of a panic attack issue, and if Miles has ever thought about talking to someone professionally. Tiana actually has a psychiatrist, and she says they've been doing great work. This is actually a great conversation about self-improvement and self-care, especially in communities like Miles where the subject is rarely ever broached, but unfortunately for Tiana and Miles, they don't get to finish this talk, as they end up catching wind of the Hobgoblin's break-in. In fact, they almost get blindsided by Kingsley as he makes a daring escape. For what it's worth too, I actually really appreciate Cody Ziegler's attention to detail, because Miles and the Hobgoblin actually crossed paths earlier on in a previous run, and the two do actually know each other. Now, believe it or not, at first the fight is actually very easy for our heroes, and why shouldn't it be? There's Miles and Starling versus just one Hobgoblin. In a nice touch too, Hobgoblin goes, "Oh god, there's a new Vulture now," only for Tiana to go, "That's Starling, say it right." It's during the back and forth of the battle too, Kingsley drops some rather interesting chess allusions. He refers to himself as a pawn, but also that he's making way for a queen. I can only assume he's talking about the Goblin Queen, whom he was actually working for at the end of that last Amazing Spider-Man story, and the Goblin Queen just so happens to be a creation of the Beyond Corporation, so it all kinda tracks. When the heroes once again start winning the fight and Hobgoblin has his back against the wall, he ends up activating some of that stolen Beyond tech, which probably isn't a good idea because even Kingsley doesn't seem to truly understand what Beyond is capable of. Miles and Tiana end up getting separated by some big thick metal security doors. Tiana wanders around for a little bit only to be taken out by what seems to be a third party. Miles has an even rougher time on his own too. As mentioned before, he can't trust his spider sense right now and is jumping at anything that even even kind of looks like a drone. This means the Hobgoblin has a very easy time getting the drop on him as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 9, everybody, and I gotta say this one is off to another very strong start. Cody Ziegler really does make writing Spider-Man look easy right now. Expertly managing to balance Miles' personal life as a young kid in Brooklyn, his inner turmoil, as well as, of course, all the hardship that comes with being a workaday superhero. I know I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but it just feels so classic, so quintessentially Spider-Man. And so far, every mainline issue in this series just serves as a great reminder of why I love this character and why I love comics so much. When I read this book, I feel transported, I feel like I'm a fly on the wall for Miles' adventures, and I hope the adventures continue. Of course, you might be a little lost on all the Hobgoblin stuff if you're not up to date on mainline Spider-Man, but I basically explained it all to you here in this video, and beyond that, you don't need to know it to enjoy what's going on. Overall, I'd give this one a very positive 8 out of 10, and I cannot wait to see what happens next in this arc. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.